He mocked her prayer until he saw what it caused. Detective Jack Riley rubbed his bloodshot eyes as he stared at the crime scene photos scattered across his desk. 3 weeks, 5 victims, and 0 leads. The Chicago winter had descended early this year, matching his dark mood as he sipped cold coffee from a paper cup. Another late night, Riley. Captain Hernandez placed a fresh case file on his desk. Got the forensics back on the Wicker Park victim. Same MO, same lack of evidence. Jack flipped through the file, his jaw tightening. This guy's methodical. No prints, no DNA, no witnesses except your prayer girl, Hernandez finished. Maria Vega. She still sticking to her story? Jack nodded, irritation flashing across his face. Claims she saw a shadow leaving the second crime scene. When I pressed for details, she said we need to pray for divine intervention to catch this guy. He let out a dry laugh. 15 years on the force, and I've never caught a perp through prayer. She's coming in again today. Maybe you'll get something useful this time. An hour later, Maria sat across from Jack in the interview room. She was in her late 20s, with dark hair pulled back in a neat ponytail, her eyes carrying a quiet intensity that unsettled him. Miss Vega, I need something concrete. Physical description, distinguishing features, anything. Maria folded her hands on the table. Detective Riley, what I saw wasn't normal. It was like the darkness itself took shape. Jack's patience snapped. Ms. Vega, we're dealing with a flesh and blood killer, not some supernatural entity. 5 people are dead. I know that, she said softly. That's why we need to pray. There's evil at work here that goes beyond prayer. Jack scoffed, standing abruptly. While you're on your knees talking to the ceiling, this killer is planning his next move. We need evidence, not faith. Maria stood too, her voice steady despite his outburst. Sometimes what we can't see is more powerful than what we can, detective. Save it for Sunday school, he muttered. As Maria gathered her purse, her expression shifted. Fine. If you won't listen, then watch. She closed her eyes right there in the interview room. Lord, we ask for your intervention. Show Detective Riley the truth he refuses to see. Bring this evil into the light so justice can be served. Jack rolled his eyes. Are we done here? Just then, his phone rang. He answered, his expression changing from annoyance to shock as he listened. When? Where? I'm on my way. He hung up, staring at Maria with newfound unease. What happened? She asked. They found another victim, Jack said slowly. Except this time the killer was still there. He collapsed at the scene, mid-attack. Some kind of seizure. He swallowed hard. They're taking him to Chicago Memorial right now. Maria's eyes widened. The same hospital where the first victim worked, Jack finished, a chill running down his spine. How did you know that? Maria didn't answer, but the look in her eyes said everything. As Jack rushed out, he couldn't shake the timing of that call, coming exactly as Maria finished her prayer. Pure coincidence, he told himself. It had to be. The hospital corridor bustled with police and medical staff as Jack pushed his way through. The suspect, identified as Marcus Lowe, 42, lay handcuffed to a bed, surrounded by officers and doctors arguing over his condition. He was perfectly fine, then just dropped, explained Officer Chen. EMTs said it looked like a massive stroke, but they can't confirm yet. Jack approached the bed. Lowe was conscious, but disoriented, his left side partially paralyzed. When their eyes met, Jack felt a jolt of recognition. Not because he knew this man, but because of what he saw in those eyes. The same cold emptiness he'd seen in countless killers over the years. Can he talk? Jack asked. The doctor shook her head. His speech is affected. We need to run tests. As Jack turned away, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Now do you believe? Maria. His blood ran cold. He hadn't given her his number. Jack found Maria in the hospital chapel, kneeling in prayer. The small room was empty except for them, illuminated by flickering candles. How did you get my number? He demanded. She looked up calmly. I didn't text you, detective. Jack showed her the message. Her face paled. This isn't me, she whispered, but it means something is listening. This is insane, Jack muttered, pacing. The guy probably had a pre-existing condition. Medical events happen all the time. At the exact moment I prayed for intervention, Maria challenged. You're a detective. You don't believe in coincidences. Jack ran a hand through his hair. So what, you think God struck him down with a stroke? I think something responded, Maria said carefully, but I'm not sure it was God. Before Jack could respond, his phone rang again. It was the lab. Riley, he answered, listening intently. Are you absolutely sure? Check again. He hung up, his face ashen. What is it? Maria asked. They found DNA at the latest crime scene, Lowe's DNA, but it doesn't match samples from the previous murders. Jack looked at her, confusion evident in his eyes. According to forensics, we're looking at two different killers. Maria's expression shifted to one of dread. It's worse than I thought. This isn't over, detective. Whatever force is at work here, it's just getting started. As if on cue, the hospital lights flickered, plunging them momentarily into darkness. When they came back on, Maria was standing, her eyes fixed on something behind Jack. We need to leave, she whispered. Now. Jack turned, seeing nothing but an empty hallway. Yet the hair on the back of his neck stood on end, a primal warning system he'd learned never to ignore. What did you see? He asked. The same shadow from the crime scene, she said. It's watching us. Jack insisted on driving Maria home, his mind racing to rationalize everything that had happened. The Chicago skyline glittered against the night sky as they crossed the river, neither speaking until they reached her apartment building in Pilsen. I'm not crazy, detective, Maria finally said. I worked as a nurse at Chicago Memorial for 6 years. I've seen people die. I know the difference between natural and unnatural. Jack sighed. Look, I'm not saying your faith is wrong. I'm just saying there's always a logical explanation. And what's your logical explanation for what happened today? He had none. Inside her apartment, Maria showed Jack a wall covered with newspaper clippings about the murders. In the center was a map with locations marked. You've been investigating on your own? He asked, somewhere between impressed and concerned. The first victim was my friend, she explained. Lisa Martinez. We worked together at the hospital. Maria pointed to a photo of herself with a smiling woman. The night before she died, she called me terrified, said she felt something watching her. Jack studied the map. The murders form a pattern. Not just any pattern, Maria said, connecting the points. A symbol. The completed shape sent a chill through Jack. It wasn't random at all. Who else knows about this? He asked. No one. I tried telling your department, but no one would listen. Jack's phone buzzed. A text from the precinct. Lowe had died. His last words. It's not me. It's using me. As Jack showed Maria the message, the lights in her apartment flickered. A cold draft swept through the room despite closed windows. It's here, Maria whispered. Jack reached for his gun, an instinctive response he knew was useless against whatever they were facing. We need to leave, he said, grabbing her arm. They rushed outside to Jack's car, but it wouldn't start. The streetlights above them popped one by one, glass raining down as darkness encroached. This is impossible, Jack muttered, trying the ignition again. Maria placed her hand over his. Detective, Jack, you need to trust me now. We can't fight this with bullets. In the rearview mirror, Jack saw a dark figure approaching the car. Not a person, something else entirely. His training told him to confront it, but every instinct screamed to run. What do we do? He asked, his skepticism finally giving way to fear. We pray, Maria said, her voice steady despite the terror in her eyes. But this time we need to be careful what we ask for. As the shadow reached the car, Maria began to pray, her words not in English, but in rapid Spanish. Jack found himself joining her, speaking words of faith he hadn't uttered since childhood. The darkness pressed against the windows, seeming to search for a way in. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, it retreated, dissolving into the night. It's gone, Jack whispered. For now. Maria nodded grimly. But it'll be back. And next time, it'll be stronger. Dawn broke over Chicago as Jack and Maria sat in a 24-hour diner, exhausted but afraid to sleep. Jack's worldview had been shattered in a single night, leaving him grasping for solid ground. You knew this would happen when you prayed in the station, he said quietly. Maria stirred her untouched coffee. I hoped for divine intervention. I didn't expect this. What exactly is this? Jack asked. What are we dealing with? I think it's something that feeds on violence, she explained. It finds people with darkness already inside them and amplifies it. When I prayed for intervention, it was forced into the open. Jack's phone lit up with a notification. Another body had been found, this time with a message carved into the wall. Faith without wisdom is dangerous. It's taunting us, Jack said, showing her the screen. Maria's face hardened with resolve. Then we need to be smarter. My grandmother was a devout woman, but she always said some prayers are like weapons, powerful but dangerous if misused. They spent the day researching similar cases, finding patterns dating back decades. By evening, they had a theory. The entity moved in cycles, using human vessels to commit violence before disappearing for years. The symbol on your map, Jack realized, it's not marking where it's been, it's showing where it's going next. They rushed to the final location, an abandoned church scheduled for demolition. The sun was setting as they arrived, casting long shadows across the crumbling sanctuary. Inside, they found candles arranged in the same pattern as the murders. In the center stood a man with his back to them, humming softly. "Chicago PD," Jack called, drawing his weapon. "Turn around slowly." The man turned, revealing a face Jack recognized. Officer Chen, who had been at the hospital. "You're too late," Chen said, his voice oddly distorted. "Your prayer opened the door, Maria Vega. Now I'm free." "That's not Chen," Maria whispered to Jack. "It's using him." Jack kept his gun trained on Chen. "Whatever you are, release him. Now." The thing wearing Chen's face smiled. "You mocked her faith, Detective Riley. Called it weakness. Yet here you are, facing something your bullets can't stop." "I was wrong," Jack admitted, his voice steady. "I see that now." Too little, too late," it hissed. Chen lunged forward with inhuman speed, but Jack was ready. He tackled Chen to the ground, the gun skittering away across the floor. "Maria, now!" Jack shouted, struggling to hold Chen down. Maria began to pray, not asking for destruction this time, but for cleansing, for peace, for release. Jack joined her, their voices rising together in the abandoned church. Chen's body convulsed as a shadow seemed to tear itself free, hovering above them like a storm cloud. It writhed and twisted, fighting against unseen forces. "It's working," Maria gasped. "Keep going." The entity let out an unearthly shriek as it began to dissolve, particles of darkness dispersing like smoke. Chen went limp beneath Jack, his breathing returning to normal. When it was over, the church was quiet except for their ragged breathing. Outside, the first stars appeared in the twilight sky. "Is it gone?" Jack asked, helping Chen to a sitting position. Maria nodded slowly. "For now, but there will be others." In the weeks that followed, Jack found himself attending church with Maria, not out of fear, but out of a newfound respect for the unknown. The case was officially closed. Lo and Chen, both victims of a drug-induced psychosis. But Jack knew the truth. Some evenings, he would catch Maria looking over her shoulder, scanning the shadows. On those nights, they would pray together, a detective and a nurse standing guard against a darkness few would ever understand. "You know," Jack said one evening as they walked along the lakeshore, "I still believe in evidence and facts." Maria smiled. "Faith and reason aren't enemies, Detective. Sometimes they're two sides of the same coin." Jack nodded, watching the sunset paint the Chicago skyline in gold. He had mocked her prayer once. Now he understood its power, both to heal and to harm, to reveal and to conceal. And somewhere in the gathering darkness he knew something was waiting. But this time he would be ready.